The Alaska State Poetry Out Loud competition is made possible by the Alaska State Council on the Arts in partnership with the Juneau Arts and Humanities Council, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Poetry Foundation.
Welcome to Juneau. It is my pleasure. I am the Executive Director of the Juneau Arts and Humanities Council. My name is Nancy DeCherney, and I am so pleased and proud to have all of you here. I want to especially thank Fish, Selma Jessie Houck, who was playing her original pieces to open the pre-show entertainment here. I want to thank you contestants for all of your hard work that you have put in over this past school year and even before that, for bringing to life the words of the poets for us this evening. And I want to also thank your teachers and your schools, and especially your parents, for helping you get through all of this. I don't want to spend too much time on this, so I'm going to just ask Ben Brown to come up. He is the chairman of the Alaska State Council on the Arts, and it's my pleasure to welcome him to the stage, and he'll explain everything.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Very much indeed. I am the chairman of the Alaska State Council on the Arts, which is a volunteer organization. We are the state arts agency created by the legislature back in 1967. We're an 11-member volunteer board. I'm the only board member here today, and we only have one staff person here today, Laura Forbes. We're a small agency, 7 staff operating out of Anchorage, and they're amazing. And so I just really want to give praise to her for all that she's done. Also in collaboration, of course, with Nancy and her hardworking team at the Juneau Arts and Humanities Council and our friends here at KTOO. This wonderful space is just perfect for this event, and I've seen it in many iterations. This is the 10th year of Poetry Out Loud, which has grown by leaps and bounds, nationally and here in Alaska. And it's difficult to make these things happen with ever more straitened resources, and I think it's a real testament to all of you and your families that you've all been able to get here and make this all work out. And I think you're going to have a wonderful time tonight. So before I turn it over to well, I guess I'll just turn it over to her with a brief introduction to our Master of Ceremonies, my friend Bostin Christopher. I've known Bostin for many years. He's a fine actor. He's a successful arts administrator. He was at Perseverance Theater for a great while working in the office. And as it says in the program, he's playing Oscar Madison in The Odd Couple. My agent's asleep at the wheel because I'm playing Roy in The Odd Couple. So we're lucky we're both able to be here tonight. And so I can tell you about him as a person and also his character a little bit. He may seem like he's not polished or prepared, but he really is going to be ruthlessly efficient, and I know he's going to get you out of here on time and under budget, and I should know because I play as accountant in The Odd Couple at Perseverance Theater. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening with your Master of Ceremonies, Bostin Christopher.
Hi, everybody. I've been instructed not to yell in the mic. I have a pretty loud voice, so yes, I'm here to slaughter names and to help these young folks get through this evening. We'll try to be as quick as we can. We got a few things to do first, like go through, kind of like the Oscars, we have to give you what the rules are, right? So we're going to do that. And I also want to introduce our judges. So in the back there, I want to go, you can see there the firing line across the back wall back there. So first we have Amy O'Neill Houck, and she is from Juneau. We have Eric Kefner from Juneau. We have Susanna Mishler of Anchorage. Hello, Susanna. Welcome to Juneau. John Morgan of Fairbanks. Thanks for coming down from Fairbanks, John. Carolyn Servid of Sitka. Welcome. The little 25-minute flight over. We have our accuracy judge, Bridget Luan, she's right there, yes. And our scorekeepers, Nancy DeCherney, who you just met, and Amanda Filori, also of Juneau. So thank you all for your service. We want to do a note of thanks before we start. We want to recognize Nancy and Amanda from the Juneau Arts and Humanities Council and all the volunteers from the JAC for the great work they have done as Poetry Out Loud coordinators of Alaska. They basically coordinate the entire Poetry Out Loud competition throughout the year. The program would not be as accessible and successful in our state without the longtime partnership between the Alaska State Council on the Arts and the Juneau Arts and Humanities Council. So thanks to both of those organizations. Give them a big round of applause. This is a fantastic event, and I just want to tell you a couple of things. One of the things I'm going to talk about a little bit later when we get into the competition, because this is always something that's fascinating to me, is what the criteria is. So I'm just going to tell you what those titles are, and then later on we'll talk a little bit about each of those things and what they are. So what the judges are going to be looking for are physical presence, voice and articulation, dramatic appropriateness, that's an interesting category. Level of complexity, sort of like swimming, right, at the Olympics. Evidence of understanding, and then also the overall performance. So those are the main categories that the judges are going to be looking for, and critiquing those as they go. So the Poetry Out Loud rules are as follows. Only currently enrolled high school students in grades 9 through 12 are eligible, with an exception made for 8th grade students participating in a 9th through 12th grade class. Do we have any 8th graders here? No, we eliminated all of them. Okay. Competitors must be U.S. citizens or permanent residents to be eligible to compete at the National Poetry Out Loud competition. A student may not advance to the state finals without competing in a lower level competition. These have been happening all year long at the various schools throughout the state. Schools or regions must hold a competition of at least 2 students to select their champion. If that champion is unable to attend the next level of competition, the runner-up is sent. Students must be judged according to the Poetry Out Loud evaluation criteria from the 2014-2015 Teacher's Guide. State and national finals consist of 3 rounds of competition. That's what we'll be having tonight. We'll be having 3 rounds. Competitions at lower levels may have fewer rounds, but students must recite only 1 poem in each round. So tonight, as in your program, you can see there are 3 rounds of competition. The first 2 rounds will be done by all 10 finalists, and then we will have, the judges will give us the final competitors, and they will recite their 3rd poem. And then after that, we'll give the others a chance to recite their 3rd poem as well, even though they won't be competing at that point. The order in which the poems are recited is up to the student. Rankings are based solely on evaluation sheets submitted by the judges. Judges should not convene to discuss performances during the competition, so keep it to yourselves back there. Judges may not reconsider their scores after they are submitted, so be sure you know what you were thinking and what you wrote down. Scoring, this is also very important. Scoring is cumulative. The scores from all rounds should be added together to determine the winner. In the event of a tie, the tied student with the highest overall performance score should win. If that also results in a tie, look to the highest accuracy score. Students may not use props or wear costumes during their recitations. All poems must be selected from the Poetry Out Loud print or online anthology, which for those of you who are interested can be found online at poetryoutloud.org. Again, we are streaming live tonight also on 360north.org, and we're really glad to be here at 360, which is a great new facility here in Juneau. So I think that's all I need to tell you to get started. So let's begin. What I'm going to do is I will tell you a little bit about each student with a brief bio, and then they will come up and they will recite their first poem, and we'll get through all 10, and then we'll take a short little break. And oh no, I think we go right into round 2, and then we'll take a little break. So our first competitor, this is where I start slaughtering names and school titles, so bear with me as we go. Our first one is Jillian Elaine Bjornstad, representing Sandpoint High School. She was born on September 20th, 1997. It's a very important date in history because she was born. She has lived her entire life in Sandpoint, located on a small island off the Aleutian chain. She is currently in the 11th grade, and she is at the top of her class, even if that class consists of only 3 students. She is a lifeguard and a lifeguard instructor, an avid reader, and she enjoys art. Before this school year, Jillian hadn't even heard of Poetry Out Loud and had no prior experience with memorizing and or performing poetry. When her English teacher told the class they were going to have a school-wide competition, Jillian decided to give it her best shot. She said, "Soon I was preparing to record my video to send into the regional competition. Next thing I knew, I was heading to the state competition in Juneau." This is Jillian Elaine Bjornstad from Sandpoint High School.
Broadcast rights for Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings have not been granted for this event.
Next up, we have Brianna Gerlach representing Glen Allen School. She's currently a sophomore at Glen Allen. She's been a student at Glen Allen School since kindergarten. She first became interested in poetry out loud in 7th grade, where she had a chance to compete in the school's junior high competition. Ever since, she has had a passion for poetry and the arts. Besides poetry, Brianna also enjoys many extracurricular activities. Since the age of 9, she has been taking violin lessons, and she has been taking vocal lessons since age 7. She recently began learning the cello as well. Where do you find time to do all of this stuff? Sports are also a very important component in Brianna's life. At her school, she participates in both track and cross-country running. Her plan for the future is to go to college on a running, music, or academic scholarship. Why not all three, I say? Brianna would like to major in law and minor in the fine arts. This is Brianna Gerlach representing Glen Allen School.
Ars Poetica by Archibald MacLeish. A poem should be palpable and mute, as a globe's fruit, dumb as old medallions to the thumb, silent as the sleeve-worn stone of casement ledges where the moss has grown. A poem should be wordless as the flight of birds. A poem should be motionless in time as the moon climbs, leaving as the moon releases twig by twig the night-entangled trees, leaving as the moon behind the winter leaves, memory by memory the mind. A poem should be motionless in time as the moon climbs. A poem should be equal to, not true, for all the history of grief, an empty doorway, and a maple leaf. For love, the leaning grasses, and 2 lights above the sea. A poem should not mean, but be.
Very nice. So that's my lawyer, everybody. So if you need anything, need to sue me, please talk to Brianna. Next, we're going to have Madison Gilberto representing Thunder Mountain High School right here in Juneau. Madison is a sophomore at Thunder Mountain. She competed in Poetry Out Loud last year in the school and district competitions. All of Madison's extra time outside of school revolves around the arts. She is the president of the National Arts Honors Society and a member of the Thunder Mountain dance team. Madison plans on giving the rest of her time to the arts later in life as well. She is very passionate about the arts, including writing, dancing, singing, painting, drawing, and sculpting. Are we ready to go in the back? I haven't been given the high sign. Okay. So one of the things that we can talk about while they're still making sure they have everything back there is, as I was mentioning these categories before, and I'll just give you one of them, which I thought was interesting. So the first category, physical presence, can only be judged by looking at the reciter. The student should be poised, but not artificially so, projecting ease and confidence by his or her physical presence. So that's one thing. I also wanted to mention something. There was a student earlier that she had mentioned that she had sent in her video. So I wanted to say that for rural communities across the state, there is a video adjudication process whereby schools from each region send videos of their school representatives to a panel of judges in Juneau. This is unique to the state of Alaska. Because we are such a large state and because there are so many regions. We do have 4 regions total. There's the Anchorage School District, the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District, the Matsu Borough School District, and the Juneau School District. So schools that are outside of those districts then can send in videos. So if you know people who want to participate in Poetry Out Loud but can't, they can send in a video competition, and you can learn more about that on the various different websites. Okay, so let's go now to, I had just given her fantastic bio, but we're going to hear from Madison Gilberto, representing Thunder Mountain High School.
Broadcast rights for Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings have not been granted for this event.
Let me see if I can get this out. So, this is Janie Hanna representing Nuni Wakmute. Is that correct? Yay! From Makoriuk. That is the name of the school, Nuni Wakmute. And she has attended school in Makoriuk, Alaska, from 3rd to 8th grade. She attended Cook Inlet Academy in Soldotna her 9th grade year, and she is currently back in Makoriuk as a 10th grade student at the Nuni Wakmute School. So far, says Janie, my experience with Poetry Out Loud has been great. I heard about Poetry Out Loud in 8th grade and thought it was interesting, and I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to participate in it. It's similar to Speech Contest, another competition in the Lower Kuskokwim School District that I participate in yearly. Janie's other extracurricular interests include cross-country running, student government, basketball, Native Youth Olympics, and Native dancing. That is an amazing accomplishment of what you do. I was just trying to get out of bed every day to get to school, so these kids are fantastic. In the future, she plans to apply for ANSEP, which is Alaska Native Science and Engineering Program, and this summer she plans to go look at some colleges in California that interest her. Okay, this is Janie Hanna. Hannah? Is it Hannah? I messed it up, didn't I? See, I got the hard part right, and then I messed up the easy part. Janie Hanna. Please.
To David, About His Education, by Howard Nemerov. The world is full of mostly invisible things, and there is no way but putting the mind's eye, or its nose, in a book to find them out. Things like the square root of Everest, or how many times Byron goes into Texas, or whether the law of the excluded middle applies west of the Rockies. For these and the like reasons, you have to go to school and study books and listen to what you are told, and sometimes try to remember. Though I don't know what you will do with the mean annual rainfall on Plato's Republic, or the calorie content of the diet of worms. Such things are said to be good for you, and you will have to learn them in order to become one of the grown-ups who sees invisible things neither steadily nor whole, but keeps gravely the grand confusion of the world under his hat, which is where it belongs, and teaches small children to do this in their turn.
Thank you, Janie Hanna. I appreciate that. Now I've got that name embroidered on my head. So that's excellent. We're going to be moving on now to August Kilcher of Homer High School. He is a junior. He has lived in Homer, Alaska, and has lived there his entire life. His experience with poetry began in 4th grade, memorizing and reciting pieces regularly for class, participating in the Drama, Debate, and Forensics, otherwise known as DDF, club in 5th grade, and this year in high school has given August the opportunity to memorize dramatic works and perform them for audiences and judges. Singing in the school choir and swing choir is one of his most rewarding school activities. He has been chosen for many borough and state honor choir events, as well as the All Northwest Mixed Choir. He also enjoys performing in musicals and tries his best to capture each character he brings to the stage. Well, that's a good thing to do. That's what I try to do when I act. It wasn't hard to capture Oscar, though, because that was more typecasting than anything. Pursuing a degree in engineering is August's goal for the future, preferably at MIT in the area of laser technology. This kid is way smarter than me. That's all I know. This is August Kilcher from Homer High School.
Nocturne by Lee Young Lee. That scraping of iron on iron when the wind rises. What is it? Something that the wind won't quit with, but drags back and forth. Sometimes faint, far, then suddenly close, just beyond the screen door, as if someone there in the dark squats, honing his wares against my threshold. Half steel wire, half metal wing, nothing and anything might make this noise of saws and rasps, a creaking and groaning of bone growth or body death, marriages of rust or ore abraded. Tonight, something stiffens that should slide. Something bends that should bow. Something loose and not right rakes or forges itself all night.
Thank you, August. That was fantastic. I just got texts from my girlfriend who's in Fairbanks on a state tour of Gwitchin' Midsummer Night's Dream, giving me hints and things not to say. So, love technology. I do. I love technology. Hi, girlfriend. So, Victoria Maloney, representing Ben Eielson Junior Senior High School in Fairbanks, speaking of Fairbanks, will be our next competitor. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Victoria Arlene Maloney is a senior in high school who is about to graduate on May 20th, 2015. She knows the exact day that she won't be in high school anymore. She's very proud of that fact. She has a GPA of 3.5, so is an A and B student. This is Victoria's first time participating in Poetry Out Loud. Miss, how do you say your teacher's name? Chement. Miss Chement, the theater teacher, had a project for us, she said, to do this, memorize 2 poems. Since the class had to do this anyway, Victoria thought, I might as well, right? Some extracurricular activities she enjoys include theater, cheerleading, softball, color guard for band, track, and soccer. Victoria plans to go to college for 4 years. That's a good amount of time to go to college. And become an elementary school teacher, and there is no more honorable profession than that. This is Victoria Maloney, representing Ben Eielson Junior Senior High School from Fairbanks.
On an Unsociable Family by Elizabeth Hans. Oh, what a strange parcel of creatures are we, scarce ever to quarrel or even agree. We all are alone, though at home all together, except to the fire constrained by the weather. Then one says, "'Tis cold," which we all of us know, and with unanimity answer, "'Tis so," with shrugs and with shivers, all look at the fire and shuffle ourselves in our chairs a bit nigher. Then quickly, preceded by silence profound, a yawn epidemical catches around. Like social companions, we never fall out, nor ever care what one another's about. To comfort each other is never our plan, for to please ourselves truly is more than we can.
Excellent, thank you for that. Fantastic, fantastic. We are going to be on to our 7th competitor right now. This is, let me see if I can get this name right. Angela Nashaluk, is that right? No? How do you say your last name? Nashaluk, thank you, Nashaluk, representing Frank A. Degnan High School in Unalakleet. She is an Inupiaq, Alaska native. She has attended Unalakleet schools all her life. She says, last year I was thankful to have had a chance to compete in the Poetry Out Loud state competition. I feel as if I have learned a lot from it and have improved since then. Angela enjoys spending time outdoors with her friends and family, berry picking, painting, and reading. After graduating high school, she plans to attend Alaska Christian College. When she is 21, she will apply to become a state trooper here in Alaska. Another honorable profession. Please don't ever pull me over. Angela says, I have set, especially for mispronouncing your name. Angela says, I have set my goals and I am not going to give up. I look forward to each day and plan to live my life to the fullest. This is Angela Nashaluk. Did I say it right? Yay! Representing Frank A. Degnan High School in Unalakleet, please.
Sweetness by Stephen Dunn. Just when it has seemed I couldn't bear one more friend, waking with a tumor, one more maniac with the perfect reason, often a sweetness has come and changed nothing in the world except the way I stumbled through it, for a while lost in the ignorance of loving someone or something. The world shrunk to mouth size, hand size, and never seeming small. I acknowledge there is no sweetness that doesn't leave a stain, no sweetness that's ever sufficiently sweet. Tonight a friend called to say his lover was killed in a car he was driving. His voice was low and guttural. He repeated what he needed to repeat, and I repeated the 1 or 2 words we have for such grief until we were speaking only in tones. Often a sweetness comes as if on loan, stays just long enough to make sense of what it means to be alive, then returns to its dark source. As for me, I don't care where it's been, or what bitter road it's traveled to come so far, to taste so good.
Thank you, Angela. Maeva Ordaz is going to be next. She's representing West Anchorage High School. Maeva is a senior at West Anchorage High School, where she is part of both the highly gifted program and the International Baccalaureate program. In her spare time, she enjoys playing her violin. She enjoys writing, volunteering, and watching excessive amounts of Law and Order. Have you met Angela? Because you guys might become fast friends. She is excited to be involved in Poetry Out Loud for the 2nd year in a row. How are we doing back there? We good to go? Okay. All right, so this is Maeva Ordaz representing West Anchorage High School.
Thoughtless Cruelty by Charles Lamb. There, Robert, you've killed that fly. And should you 1,000 ages try the life you've taken to supply, you could not do it. You surely must have been devoid of thought and sense to have destroyed a thing which no way you annoyed. You'll one day rue it. 'Twas but a fly, perhaps you'll say, that's born in April, dies in May, that does but just learns to display his wings 1 minute, and in the next is vanished quite. A bird devours it in his flight, or come a cold blast in the night, there's no breath in it. The bird but seeks his proper food. And Providence, whose power endue that fly with life, when it thinks good, may justly take it. But you have no excuses for it. A life by nature made so short, less reason is that you for sport should shorter make it. A fly, a little thing you rate, but Robert, do not estimate a creature's pain by small or great. The greatest being can have but fibers, nerves, and flesh, and these the smallest ones possess, although their frame and structure less escape our seeing.
Excellent. We have a couple more competitors for this first round. Next is Juliana. Juliana. No. How do you say it? I did say it right then. Oh, because you shook your head, so I thought I said it wrong. Oh, okay. Juliana. I'm confused by N's, everyone. Apparently N's. Juliana Smith, representing Colony High School in Palmer. I was actually just doing that to stretch a little bit, so it's called humor. She's a 10th grader at Colony High School, and this is her first time participating in Poetry Out Loud. She says, I was motivated to participate by my love of poetry, especially spoken or performance poetry, and the 50 extra credit points my English teacher gave me. So that's always good. All joking aside, my favorite poet by far is Shane Koizan. Is that how you say his name? Yeah? Koizan. In her free time, Juliana enjoys... enjoys reading, social media, writing, thinking, music, and playing video games. I have been participating in orchestra as an upright bassist for 5 years, and she works part-time tutoring young students in math, science, and English, and in MCs on pronouncing names. She loves pandas, the internet, her fat cat, traveling, learning new things, good food, my friends, and the insane world she lives in. In the future, Juliana hopes to become an English or science teacher, a successful part-time fiction writer, and the owner of several more cats. Please welcome Juliana to the stage, representing Colony High School in Palmer.
Fairy Tale Logic by A.E. Stallings. Fairy tales are full of impossible tasks. Gather the chin hairs of a man-eating goat, or cross a sulfuric lake in a leaky boat. Select the prince from a row of identical masks. Tiptoe up to a dragon where it basks, and snatch its bone. Count dust specks mote by mote, or learn the phone directory by rote. Always, it's impossible what someone asks. You have to fight magic with magic. You have to believe that you have something impossible up your sleeve. The language of snakes, perhaps, an invisible cloak, an army of ants at your beck, or a lethal joke. The will to do whatever must be done. Marry a monster. Hand over your firstborn son.
Thank you, Juliana. You don't know how much trouble I just got in from my girlfriend over the texting for that. So we have one more competitor, and then we will go right in to round two. We'll go back to the top of the list, and we'll go through the second round as well. And in that, we'll learn a little bit about our judges in the back as well. So our final competitor for the first round, Alexandra Dawn Weber, representing Skagway High School. She goes by Al. Al Weber is a junior at Skagway High School. She has participated in Poetry Out Loud for the past 2 years. Al also takes part in cross country, volleyball, basketball, and track and field. When she is not working at school or on a sport, Al enjoys riding her horse outside and watching classic Disney movies. Sounds like a pretty good life to me. Like many high school students, she does not know exactly what she wants to be or what career she wishes to have, but knows that it will be in a field that utilizes math and science. So thank you. Here's Al Weber from Skagway School.
Life Cycle of Common Man by Howard Nemroff. Roughly figured, this man of moderate habits, this average consumer of the middle class, consumed in the course of his average lifespan just under 500,000 cigarettes, 4,000 fifths of gin, and about a quarter as much vermouth. He drank maybe 100,000 cups of coffee, and counting his parents' share, it cost something like $500,000 to put him through life. How many beasts died to provide him with meat, belt, and shoes cannot be certainly said. But anyhow, it is in this way that a man travels through time, leaving behind him a lengthening trail of empty bottles and bones, of broken shoes, frayed collars, and worn out, or outgrown, diapers and dinner jackets, silk ties and slickers. Given the energy and security thus achieved, he did what? The usual things, of course, the eating, dreaming, drinking and begetting, and he worked for the money which was to pay for the eating, etc., which were necessary if he were to go on working for the money, etc. But chiefly, he talked. As the bottles and bones accumulated behind him, the words proceeded steadily out of the front of his face as he advanced into the silence and made it verbal. Who can tally the tale of his words? A lifetime would barely suffice for their repetition. If you merely printed all his commas, the result would be a very large volume. And the number of times he said, "Thank you," or "Very little sugar, please," would stagger the imagination. There were also witticisms, platitudes, and statements beginning, "It seems to me," or, as I always say, consider the courage in all that, and behold the man walking into deep silence with the ectoplastic cartoon's balloon of speech proceeding steadily out of the front of his face, the words borne along on the breath which is his spirit, telling the numberless tale of his untold word, which makes the world his apple and forces him to eat.
That's Al Weber from Skagway School. Please let's a round of applause to all our contestants for the first round. So we're going to go back and we will do round 2, but before we do, I just wanted to tell you a little something that I thought was interesting, and that is that last year, 42 schools from across the state participated in Poetry Out Loud, including 115 teachers and more than 3,500 students. 10 students came to Juneau and competed for the state championship. While in Juneau, they visited the state capitol to meet with legislators, the University of Alaska Southeast Campus, and the governor's house. Did you guys do all those things today as well? You got to go to the governor's house? That's a pretty great thing. So again, this is a wonderful statewide competition now in its 10th year, and we are so proud to be hosting it here in Juneau. And so let's continue now to round 2. Let me give you one more thing before we do in terms of, we talked about physical presence, one of the things the judges are looking for. The other thing they're looking for, which I hope they're not judging me on, is voice and articulation. The auditory nature of the recitation is evaluated. Judges consider the student's volume, pace, intonation, rhythm, and proper pronunciation. That's the part where I think I would fail. So I'm sorry I've failed you all, and we will try to make sure that I don't do that this time. So let's continue on. We'll go into round 2 now. We'll go back to the start. This is Jillian Elaine Bjornstad, representing Sandpoint High School for her second poem.
Auto Lullaby by Franz Wright. Think of a sheep knitting a sweater. Think of your life getting better and better. Think of your cat asleep in a tree. Think of that spot where you once skinned your knee. Think of a bird that stands in your palm. Try to remember the 21st Psalm. Think of a big pink horse galloping south. Think of a fly and close your mouth. If you feel thirsty, then drink from your cup. The birds will keep singing until you wake up. Thank you.
Excellent. So we'll give our judges just a minute. And speaking of our judges, let me talk a little bit about a couple of them. We'll go through each one of them as we go. So starting in the far back there, Amy O'Neill Houck is a writer and fiber artist living in Juneau. She's written 3 books and numerous magazine articles on knitting and crochet. She is finishing her MFA in creative nonfiction at UAA. I thought you finished that already, but I guess she's almost done. It's so close, right? So close. Amy works as the Outreach and Development Associate for Perseverance Theater, and she also directs for the Juneau Fine Arts Camp. So let's continue on. Thank you for your service, Amy. We really appreciate it. So next up, yes, please, we can give applause. Yes, absolutely. Amy is also the mother of the singer Fish that we had up here before the program started this evening. Very talented family. So, second up here, Brianna Gerlich from Glen Allen School.
Solitude by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Laugh and the world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. For the sad old earth must borrow its mirth, but has trouble enough of its own. Sing and the hills will answer. Sigh, it is lost on the air. The echoes bound to a joyful sound, but shrink from voicing care. Rejoice and men will seek you. Grieve and they turn and go. They want full measure of all your pleasure, but they do not need your woe. Be glad and your friends are many. Be saddened you lose them all. There are none to decline your nectared wine, but alone you must drink life's gall. Feast, and your halls are crowded. Fast, and the world goes by. Succeed and give, and it helps you live. But no man can help you die. There is room in the halls of pleasure for a large and lordly train, but one by one, who we must all file on through the narrow aisles of pain.
Thank you very much for that. Let me see. I wanted to give you a little background on the structure of Poetry Out Loud. It uses a pyramid structure that starts at the classroom level. Winners advance to a school-wide competition, then to a region and or state competition. And ultimately, the winner of today will go on to the national finals. In Alaska, there are 4 regions with enough population to hold in-person regional competitions. That's the Anchorage School District, Fairbanks North Star Borough School District, Matsu Borough School District, and the Juneau School District. And as I mentioned before, for those of you who may or may not have access to these particular districts, you can also send in a video via video adjudication process, and those get sent here to Juneau and are judged by a panel, and that's unique to Alaska because we have such size. And today the winner will receive $200 and an all-expenses-paid trip with an adult chaperone to Washington to compete for the national championship. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. So that's a really, it's a fantastic program, and this really exposes people to literature, to poetry, to performance, things that are all close to my heart. And so I'm really happy to be here emceeing this, even though we're having fun with some of the names and all of that kind of thing. But I really think this is a fantastic program, and 10 years in, it's bigger and better than ever. So, and thank you all for your support of the program. So moving on, we will now go right here to Juneau, Thunder Mountain High School, Madison Gilberto, representing Thunder Mountain.
Testimonial by Rita Dove. Back when the earth was new and heaven just a whisper, back when the names of things hadn't had time to stick, back when the smallest breezes melted summer into autumn, and back when all the poplars quivered sweetly in rank and file, the world called and I answered. Each glance ignited to a gaze. I caught my breath and called that life, swooned between spoonfuls of lemon sorbet. I was pirouette and flourish. I was filigree and flame. How could I count my blessings when I didn't know their names? Back when everything was still to come, I gave my promise to the world, and the world followed me here.
Thank you, Madison. Thank you for that. So one of the other things that the judges look for is dramatic appropriateness. A poet succinctly expressed the essence of judging this category with the following quote: "In reciting a poem aloud, you are not like an actor coming to understand and then to feel yourself in a dramatic part, a fictional person. It's rather that you come to understand and then to be the voice of the poem itself." And this is from Committed to Memory by John Hollander. So recitation is about conveying a poem's sense primarily with one's voice. In this way, recitation is closer to the art of oral interpretation than to theatrical performance. Think storyteller or narrator rather than actor. And now I also want to talk about Eric Kiefner a little bit, one of our other judges. He is back there, second in line. He recently retired as a lawyer after 30 years in private practice. He spent his entire professional career at Faulkner Banfield in Juneau, Alaska, writing motions, contracts, legal briefs, and the occasional nasty letter. He has a bachelor's degree in English from Yale and a master's degree in English from the University of California at Berkeley. He bailed out of the PhD program at Berkeley to go to law school because he could not decide whether to write a thesis on Emily Dickinson or Beowulf. His favorite poet is John Milton, and his fondest memory of graduate school is a marathon reading of Paradise Lost, conducted by students and faculty over the course of about 10 hours. Wow. He recommends that every Poetry Out Loud contestant memorize at least one book of the 10,565-line poem as a warm-up for their own effort. I don't know if they did that, Eric, but it's good advice nonetheless. So, moving on to our fourth person. This is Janie Hanna, representing Nuniwakmut School in Makoyak. Thank you.
Cartoon Physics, Part 1, by Nick Flynn. Children under, say, 10 shouldn't know that the universe is ever expanding, inexorably pushing into the vacuum. Galaxies swallowed by galaxies, whole solar systems collapsing, all of it acted out in silence. At 10, we are still learning the rules of cartoon animation. That if a man draws a door on a rock, only he can pass through it. Anyone else who tries will crash into the rock. 10-year-olds should stick with burning houses, car wrecks, ships going down, earthbound, tangible disasters, arenas where they can be heroes. You can run back into a burning house. Sinking ships have lifeboats. The trucks will come with their ladders. If you jump, you will be saved. A child places her hand on the roof of a school bus and drives across a city of sand. She knows the exact spot it will skid, at which point the bridge will give, who will swim to safety, and who will get pulled under by sharks. She will learn that if a man runs off the edge of a cliff, he will not fall until he notices his mistake.
So I want to talk about Susanna Mishler for a minute while she's back there judging. Her collection of poems, Termination Dust, was published by Boreal Books Red Hen Press in 2014. Her poems have appeared or are forthcoming in Alaska Quarterly Review, the Iowa Review, Kenyan Review Online, Michigan Quarterly Review, Mid-American Review, and elsewhere. She is the recipient of a Peter Taylor Fellowship from the Kenyan Review Writers Workshop and an Alaska Literary Award from the Alaska Arts and Culture Foundation. She holds an MFA in poetry from the University of Arizona in Tucson, where she also served as a poetry editor for Sonora. Is it Sonora? Yeah, Sonora Review. Among other things, she's worked as a wildlife surveyor, dockhand, science educator, and sled dog handler. She currently lives in Anchorage and earns her living as an electrician. She's online at susannamishler.com, where I'm sure you can find links to her poetry, her books, etc. So thank you, Susanna, for your coming down to Juneau to be part of this, and we really appreciate that. So next up, thank you. Yeah, let's give her a hand. Thank you. Looks like the judges are ready, so let's go to our fifth competitor in the second round, August Kilcher of Homer High School.
The Paradox by Paul Laurence Dunbar. I am the mother of sorrows. I am the ender of grief. I am the bud and the blossom. I am the late falling leaf. I am thy priest and thy poet. I am thy serf and thy king. I cure the tears of the heartsick. When I come, they shall sing. White are my hands as the snowdrop. Swart are my fingers as clay. Dark is my frown as the midnight. Fair is my brow as the day. Battle and war are my minions, doing as my desire. I am the calmer of passions. Peace is a nursling of mine. Speak to me gently, or curse me. Seek me or fly from my sight. I am thy fool in the morning. Thou art my slave in the night. Down to the grave I will take thee. Out from the noise of the strife. Then thou shalt see me and know me, death then no longer, but life. Then thou shalt sing at my coming, kiss me with passionate breath, clasp me and smile to have thought me ought save the foreman of death. Come to me, brother, when weary. Come when thy lonesome heart swells. I'll guide thy footsteps and lead thee down where the dream woman dwells.
Great, thank you, August. So we've looked at physical presence, voice and articulation, dramatic appropriateness. So let's talk a little bit about level of complexity. This category is to evaluate the comparative complexity of the poem, which is the result of several factors. A poem with complex content conveys difficult, sophisticated ideas that the student will be challenged to grasp and express. A poem with complex language will have intricate diction and syntax, meter and rhyme scheme, and shifts in tone or mood. Poem length is also considered in complexity. However, keep in mind that longer poems are not necessarily more complex. In well-written verse, deep meaning can sometimes translate into brief poems, where each word resonates with the next, which means all of my poems that I've ever written are brilliant because they're about 4 words long. So that's the level of complexity. So that's another category that we're looking at, that the judges are looking at as we move forward. So our 6th competitor, we're up to Victoria Maloney, representing Ben Eielson Junior Senior High School in Fairbanks. Thank you.
Every Single Day by John Straley. Suppose I said the word springtime, and I wrote the words King Salmon on a piece of paper and mailed it to you. When you opened it, would you remember that afternoon we spent together in the yellow boat, when the early whales were feeding and we caught our first fish of the year? Or would you remember that time off Cape Flattery, when you were a little girl, your father smoking, telling stories as he ran the boat? Then that tug and zing of that very first fish spooling off into the gray-green world, you laughing and brushing back your hair before setting the hook? I know I'm hard to understand sometimes, particularly when you're standing at the post office with only a piece of paper saying King Salmon on it. But just think of it as a promissory note. And that electric tug, that thrill, pulling your mind into deep waters, is how I feel about you every single day.
Thank you, Victoria. I want to talk a little bit about John Morgan, another one of our judges back there. Born in New York City, John had studied with Robert Lowell at Harvard, where he won the Hatch Prize for Lyric Poetry. At the University of Iowa Writers' Workshop, he was awarded the Academy of American Poets Prize. In 1976, John moved with his family to Fairbanks, where he directed the creative writing program at the University of Alaska Fairbanks and built a home overlooking the Tanana River with a long view south to the Alaska Range. John has published 5 books of poetry, as well as a collection of essays, and his work has appeared in The New Yorker, Poetry, the Paris Review, the New Republic, the Alaska Quarterly Review, and many other magazines, as well as in more than 20 anthologies. A few years ago, he served as the first writer-in-residence at Denali National Park. John writes that poetry gives form to our feelings and helps us come to terms with them. That's why, even when it shocks us or brings us close to tears, one underlying theme of every good poem is a celebration of human experience. Thank you for joining us, John. We really appreciate you being here. Now we'll continue, see if I can get this name right this time. Angela Nishaluk. Thank you. Representing Frank A. Degnan High School in Unalakleet. Please, Angela.
A Birthday by Christina Rossetti. My heart is like a singing bird whose nest is in a watered shoot. My heart is like an apple tree whose boughs are bent with thick-set fruit. My heart is like a rainbow shell that paddles in a halcyon sea. My heart is gladder than all these because my love is come to me. Brace me a dyes of silken down, hang it with vair and purple dyes, carve it in doves and pomegranates, and peacocks with 100 eyes. Work it in gold and silver grapes, in leaves and silver fleur-de-lis, because the birthday of my life is come, my love is come to me.
Thank you, Angela. That's excellent. I just received probably my favorite text ever. I think I've achieved my goal in life. My girlfriend just told me that I look like a 70s game show host. So I think I'm happy with that. I think I've done it. Yay! Let's see. Oh, wait, hang on a second. Where did it go? Okay, hang on. I want to look at... okay, so that one is gone. Well, let's talk about Sorry about that. My pages got all messed up. Okay, here we go. Carolyn Servid. Thank you. We'll talk about Carolyn Servid. She has lived in Sitka since 1980 and recently retired from 30 years working with the Island Institute, a small nonprofit organization which, through its public programs, brings the literary arts into conjunction with issues of community resilience. In her jobs as co-director and executive director, she ran the Institute's annual Sitka Symposium on Writing and Ideas, hosted their resident fellows program for writers, and edited Connotations, the Island Institute Journal, a twice-yearly publication of poetry, fiction, and nonfiction. She is the author of the personal essay collection Of Landscape and Longing, Finding a Home at the Water's Edge, and the editor of From the Island's Edge, a Sitka Reader. Winner of a Critics' Choice Award. Oh, that book was a winner of a Critics' Choice Award. She also co-edited the Book of the Tongass with Donald Snow, and Arctic Refuge, a Circle of Testimony with Hank Lentfer. Her essays have also appeared in a number of literary journals and anthologies. She enjoyed the chance to judge for the Sitka Poetry Out Loud competition several years ago and has been looking forward to hearing from this year's statewide contestants. So let's continue on now. Let me see. Thank you, Carolyn. Yes. Yeah, there's that one that I wanted earlier. Okay, and there's so many pages. Okay, here we go. We're back to it. It's Maeva Ordaz representing West Anchorage High School, please, ladies and gentlemen. Maeva.
Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian, who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme? What leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape, of deities or mortals, or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady? What men or gods are these? What maidens loath? What mad pursuit? What struggle to escape? What pipes and timbrels? What wild ecstasy? Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore ye soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared, pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal. Yet do not grieve, she cannot fade. Though thou hast not thy bliss, forever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Ah, happy, happy boughs, that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu. And happy melodist, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy, happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young. All breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead, and a parching tongue. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadest thou that heifer lowing at the skies? And all her silken flanks with garlands dressed? What little town by river or seashore, or mountain built with peaceful citadel, is emptied, of this folk, this pious morn. And little town, thy streets forevermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can e'er return. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou silent form dost tease us out of thought, as doth eternity, cold pastoral. When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain, in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know.
Thank you, Maeva. That was fantastic. I wanted to talk about the last couple of things that the judges are looking for. We've talked about dramatic appropriateness. We've talked about physical presence, voice and articulation, level of complexity. So evidence of understanding measures a student's comprehension and mastery of a poem. How well does the student interpret the poem for the audience? Does the student make difficult lines clearer? Does the student communicate the correct tone of the poem, whether it be angst, dry humor, ambivalence? The poet's words should take precedence, and the student who understands the poem best will be able to voice it in a way that helps the audience to understand the poem better. And then finally is the overall performance. This category is to evaluate the total success of the performance, the degree to which the recitation has become more than the sum of its parts. Has the student captivated their audience with the language of the poem? Did the student bring the audience to a better understanding of the poem? Did the physical presence, voice and articulation, dramatic appropriateness all seem on target and unified to breathe life into the poem? Does the student understand and show mastery of the art of recitation? So that's the sort of overall performance category at the end. So we have 2 more contestants, and then after that, I think we're going to take a short little break, and but we want to get through these final 2, and then we'll get our finalists. And so I want to welcome now to the stage, representing Colony High School in Palmer, Julie, Anna. Dang it! I did that on purpose. Juliana Smith, representing Colony High School in Palmer. Juliana.
Cartoon Physics Part 1 by Nick Flynn. Children under, say, 10 shouldn't know that the universe is ever expanding, inexorably pushing into the vacuum, galaxies swallowed by galaxies, whole solar systems collapsing. All of it acted out in silence. At 10, we are still learning the rules of cartoon animation, that if a man draws a door on a rock, only he can pass through it. Anyone else who tries will crash into the rock. 10-year-olds should stick with burning houses, car wrecks, ships going down, earthbound, tangible disasters, arenas where they can be heroes. You can run back into a burning house. Sinking ships have lifeboats. The trucks will come with their ladders. If you jump, you will be saved. A child places her hand on the roof of a school bus and drives across a city of sand. She knows the exact spot it will skid, at which point the bridge will give, who will swim to safety, and who will be pulled under by sharks. She will learn that if a man runs off the edge of a cliff, he will not fall until he notices his mistake.
So I want to talk about our last judge. This is Bridget Lujan. She has a lot of practice striving for and demanding accuracy every day in her profession. So she's a welcomed addition to tonight's team of judges. Bridget is a CPA and partner with the Juneau firm LG Rayfeld Mertz and has made a career of following rules and going by the book to serve her clients. Bridget is a trustee on the JAC Board of Directors, that's the Juneau Arts and Humanities Council, and current Finance Committee Chair. She also has a BFA in theater from Niagara University in New York, and accordingly is a huge fan of the arts. That's where she breaks the rules. She is married to Jess Lujan, and together they have children Christopher, who's 12, and Megan, who's 9. She congratulates all of the Poetry Out Loud candidates and wishes them the best of luck in the competition. And so for our final contestant for the second round, thank you, Bridget, for your work. You guys are doing so good, we don't even have an applause sign. You guys are really helping me out. Thank you for that. So, and let's give a round of applause to all of our judges again, please. So now to wrap up the second round, Alexandra Dawn Weber, representing Skagway High School, otherwise known as Al.
Novel by Arthur Rimbaud. 1. We aren't serious when we're 17. One fine evening, to hell with beer and lemonade, noisy cafes with their shining lamps. We walk under the green linden trees of the park. The lindens smell good in the good June evenings. At times, the air is so scented that we close our eyes. The wind laden with sound, the town isn't far, has the smell of grapevines and beer. 2. There you can see a very small patch of dark blue, framed by a little branch, pinned up by a naughty star, that melts in gentle quivers, small and very white. Night in June, 17 years old, we are overcome by it all. The sap is champagne that goes to our head. We talked a lot and feel a kiss on our lips, trembling there like a small insect. 3. Our wild heart moves through novels like Robinson Crusoe, when, in the light of a pale street lamp, a girl goes by, attractive and charming, under the shadow of her father's terrible color. As she finds you incredibly naive while clicking her little boots, she turns abruptly and in a lively way, then cavatinas die on your lips. 4. You are in love. Occupied until the month of August, you are in love. Your sonnets make her laugh. All your friends go off. You are ridiculous. Then one evening, the girl you worship deigned to write to you. That evening, you return to the bright cafes. You ask for beer or lemonade. We're not serious when we're 17, and when we have green linden trees in the park.
Thank you, Al. I just want to say that I'm sort of a goofball, I understand that, but I can't believe the 10 finalists that we have here today and the work that they've done. Can we give them a round of applause, please? And I just wanted to say something about Poetry Out Loud first, and then I will introduce our very special guests. Poetry Out Loud encourages the study of great poetry by offering educational materials and a dynamic recitation competition to high school students across the country. Poetry Out Loud gives students an opportunity to master public speaking skills, build self-confidence, and learn about their literary heritage. It's now in its 10th year of national competition, And Poetry Out Loud has inspired millions of high school students to discover classic and contemporary poetry. So it's a great competition, and we're glad to have all the students here. Let's give them another round of applause, please. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Representative Adam Wool from District 5 from Fairbanks. He is going to offer the citation to our new Alaska State Writer Laureate. Thank you. Please welcome Representative Wool.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege and an honor to give out this citation to the Alaska State Writer Laureate this year. I've known Frank for a long time. I won't say I know him, but I was a student at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks and often spent a lot of time in the music department. Frank's office was also down in that corridor, so I'd see him walking around a lot, and I saw his name on the door, and I always wondered how to pronounce it. So today I've learned how to pronounce it in not just English, but in Hungarian. It's spelled S-O-O-S, which I'm sure everyone knows in Hungarian is Sos. And in English, it will be Sos. And it is my honor to award this citation from the 29th Alaska Legislature to Alaska's State Writer Laureate, Frank Sos, for 2014 through 2016. David Guttenberg and John Coghill, both from Fairbanks, were the co-sponsors of this citation, and they are unfortunately not able to make it. They are working late hours, I'm sure, up on the hill here. But I was asked to present to Frank, and the university is in my district, and Frank lives in David's district, but we're all friends up there. So I'll read the citation to you all, and I've learned now I need to bring my glasses to some of these things. The members of the 29th Alaska State Legislature joined family, friends, and colleagues in celebrating the appointment of Fairbanks Frank Sos as the Alaska State Writer Laureate for 2014 through 2016. Literary expression reaches and enriches human beings in all walks of life and circumstances. Alaska is fortunate to have a writer of the caliber of Frank Sos who advocates for literary arts and whose writing career exemplifies literary excellence, professionalism, public service, education, and a significant nationally recognized body of work. In 1997, Frank received the prestigious Flannery O'Connor Award for Short Fiction, and in 1988-89, a National Endowment for the Arts Individual Fellowship. Frank is Professor Emeritus at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, a post he has held since 2004. He received his MFA in English with specialization in fiction from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville in 1981, and an AB in English from Davidson College, Davidson, North Carolina in 1972. Frank's recent books include Early Yet, 1998, Unified Field Theory, in 1998, Bamboo Fly Rod in 1999, Under Northern Lights, Artists and Writers on the Alaskan Landscape in 2000, and Double Moon, Constructions and Conversations with Margot Klass in 2009. Frank is known in Alaska's literary community as supportive and encouraging of readers, writers, students, and literary projects. One of his nominators, Alaska State Writer Laureate Nancy Lord of Homer, wrote, "Frank is the model of good literary citizenship through his generosity and in the ways he fosters cooperation and collaboration, and he'll remain engaged in various facets of our literary community." Kessler Woodward, artist and art historian from Fairbanks, notes, "Frank is not only one of the best writers, but he is the best teacher and mentor of writers I have ever known. He is the most dedicated nurturer of students and writers at all levels, and perhaps the most flexible and broadly scholarly thinker with whom I have ever worked. Frank travels throughout the state, inspiring writers of all ages and supporting the advancement of literary arts in Alaskan communities. The 29th Alaska State Legislature salutes the valuable service and commitment of this great Alaskan."
Thanks to Adam, who is a wonderful supporter of the arts, as is David, as all of us are in Fairbanks. That was kind of embarrassing. I don't like to talk about myself very much, but My writership is a job, and if you want me to come to your town and talk to you about writers other than myself, I'll gladly do it. I want to put a little perspective on this event. Today, if you heard these wonderful presentations in the first couple of rounds, you heard poetry spoken as those who wrote it would have loved to have heard it. When writers write, they work alone, but I assure you, every word, every punctuation mark, every line break is carefully thought through. And when you hear good readers perform such poems, you realize they have thought them through as well. If every writer, living and dead, could be in this room now, they would be extremely grateful that their poems were so thoroughly considered. I'm glad we heard 2 versions of cartoon physics and 2 versions of Caged Bird, because you can see how 2 different interpreters can put slightly different nuances on this work. That's terrific. Now, what will these people get from this? Years from now, our poetry reciters are going to have these poems in their heads. My dad came from a great tradition of poetry memorization. It kind of faded, I think, in some generations like mine. He kept these poems in his head till the day he died. They weren't great poems. The Cremation of Sam McGee, Paul Revere's Ride, but he would burst out with them all the time. These people will do the same. And it's hard to tell. You think, why did they pick these poems? Why these? Through their whole lives, they will come back. It'll be a great gift to them. Now, I'm going to read 3 very short pieces, 2 in response to our readers themselves, and you'll see why. Okay? I mostly write prose, I've got to admit, which means I write to the margin. It saves paper that way. And these are kind of little prosy pieces, and I hope you like them. The first one is called Knots. If, as the Fishers say, and I know it to be true, any knot weakens the line, then what good might all those knots we've learned to fashion from childhood forward do? Sometimes, though, it's wrong to let a small truth stand in the way of a larger understanding. How else to live except by taking the long or short filaments of time, those joyful accidents, those terrors that cannot be avoided, those long stretches of waiting, simply waiting for whatever comes next, and skein them together to make a life. Subject to breakage and loss, this tying together is what we have. Okay. After sitting in the back with the contestants, I thought this one might be informative. It's called Rocking Chair. Is it because I managed to get so little done that I must always be doing? Hair twister, foot tapper, drummer of fingertip rhythms. Why must I always be moving? Why must I, like a rocket on the launch pad, slough off energy even while sitting? Why can I not stay still? Is it because thinking is a kind of motion? Is it because to come to a rest is to come to an end? And lastly, beauty. Once I gave myself a disposable camera. The pictures from my camera I considered most successful were of the random colors of the various candy wrappers displayed in the vending machine down the hall, of cigarette butts stubbed out in a round ashtray just outside the entrance to my classroom building, of a car door modeled by Bondo, primer, and what remained of the original paint, a Volkswagen Bug with its body of many circles, its hubcaps, tires, and wheels. I was looking for beauty, and I had to start somewhere. Thank you.
Fantastic. We welcome Frank to his new post for the next 2 years. Thank you, Frank. And thank you, Representative Wool. Just warning the guys in the booth, I'm going to move this, okay? There you go. Boom. Just going to move it just like that. Okay. Now, I wanted to make sure, are we going to assemble? We're still waiting for Bridget, yes? She's coming. Okay, great. Well, it gives me a moment to talk just a little bit about how we judge the Poetry Out Loud contest again, just sort of wrap that up, and then I'll announce the finalists, and then we will go right into their recitation of their third poem. So judging a Poetry Out Loud contest differs in several important ways from judging a poetry slam or an original poetry contests. Students are trained in the art of recitation according to specific Poetry Out Loud evaluation criteria, which we talked about below. Physical presence, or before I should say, physical presence, voice and articulation, dramatic appropriateness, level of complexity, evidence of understanding, and the overall performance. Poetry Out Loud contestants recite poems written by others, so it is important that they convey a tone and mood appropriate to the selected work. The elements of dramatic monologue and stand-up comedy that sometimes make for great slams often detract from Poetry Out Loud recitations. And despite the title of the program, loudness is not always a virtue, something it took me a long time to figure out. So with that, I wanted to talk and give you we have 4 finalists, but before I give those names, can we please give them all a round of applause again? These students are only a few of the 365,000 high school students who participated in Poetry Out Loud nationwide last year. So 10 very important students to us. Thank you for your work. And now to tell you the 4 finalists, and this will be the order that you will go in terms of the competition. So first, Brianna Gerlach. Congratulations. Janie Hanna, congratulations. Victoria Maloney, congratulations. And our final contestant, Maeva Ordaz, congratulations. So if our judges are ready, looks like they are ready, we will start our competition, excuse me just a moment, with Brianna Gerlach representing Glen Allen School. Brianna.
The Tiger by William Blake. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer? What the chain? And what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil? What dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry?
Thank you, Brianna. That's wonderful. So as I give the judges just a little bit of time to judge that, I wanted to remind us all What's at stake here? Each winner at the state level receives $200 and an all-expenses-paid trip with an adult chaperone to Washington to compete for the national championship. The state winner's school, this is also a really great thing, receives a $500 stipend for the purchase of poetry books. So not only does the winner get a little bit of cash, the school also gets a little bit of cash. The first runner-up will also receive $100 with $200 for his or her school library, and a total of $50,000 in awards and school stipends is awarded annually at the national finals. So it's really great to see money being put into the arts, and especially into creating an opportunity to get more poetry books for each of these schools. It's really a fantastic program. So I think we are ready back there. So we'll continue on with, gives me a great opportunity to welcome to the stage Janie Hanna, representing Nunivakmut from Macoriuk. Please welcome Janie Hanna.
When I Heard the Learned Astronomer by Walt Whitman. When I heard the learned astronomer, when the proofs, the figures were ranged in columns before me, when I was shown the charts and diagrams to add, divide, and measure them, when I sitting heard the astronomer where he lectured with much applause in the lecture room, how soon, unaccountable, I became tired and sick, till rising and gliding out, I wandered off by myself in the mystical, moist night air, and from time to time looked up in perfect silence at the stars.
Thank you, Janie. That was excellent. So I just wanted to once again mention our judges. We heard about them before. We have a fantastic panel of judges, and I think it's worth giving you their names once again and giving them another round of applause. Let's wait till the end. I'll get all the names in here. So Amy O'Neill Houck, Eric Kiefner from Juneau. Thank you so much for your service, both of you. Susanna Mishler from Anchorage. She has her website. I think it's Susanna J. Is that right? SusannaJMishler.com. John Morgan of Fairbanks. Thank you again, John. Carolyn Servid from Sitka, as well as our accuracy judge, Bridget Lujan, and our scorekeepers, Nancy DeCherney and Amanda Filori. Let's all give them a round of applause, please. I can't imagine this is an easy task for you all. These are some great recitations and some beautiful words. And so let's hear the next one. We have Victoria Maloney representing Ben Eielson Junior Senior High School in Fairbanks. Please, come on, Victoria.
Broken Promises by David Kirby. I've met them in dark alleys, limping and one-armed. I've seen them playing cards under a single light bulb and try to join in, but they refuse me rudely, knowing I'd only let them win. I have seen them in the foyers of theaters, coming back late from the interval, long after the others have taken their seats, and in deserted shopping malls late at night, peering at things they can never buy. And I've found them wandering in a wood where I too have wandered. This morning, I caught one, small and stupid, too slow to get away. It was only a promise I'd made to myself once, and then forgot. But it screamed and kicked at me, and ran to join the others who looked at me with reproach in their long, sad faces. When I drew near them, they scurried away, even though they'll sleep in my yard tonight. I hate them for their ingratitude. I, who have kept countless promises, as dead now as Shakespeare's children. You bastards! I scream. You have to love me. I gave you life.
That was lovely. We have one final contestant. But before we do that, I just wanted to say that if there are folks out there who are listening or who know people who'd like to get involved with this, poetryoutloud.org is the website. You can also find out more from our friend Laura Forbes at the Alaska State Council on the Arts. You can go to their website, or you can probably find out more information from Nancy DeCherney at the Juneau Arts and Humanities Council, jac.org, jhac.org. Those are all very good websites with information for you about getting involved in this competition. And as we see, it's a very worthy competition and a very worthy effort put forth by all of these wonderful students. So what we'll do is we'll have our final contestant come up here in just a moment as the judges finish judging that last round. And then we'll have an opportunity, because we want to hear the third poem of all of the other contestants who were invited here today. So we will give the other contestants who are not finalists the opportunity to come up on the stage and either recite their third poem or say something that they'd like to say in their closing moments. So let's get going with our final contestant, Maeva Ordaz from West Anchorage High School. Please, Maeva.
The Nail by C.K. Williams. Some dictator or other had gone into exile, and now reports were coming about his regime. The usual crimes: torture, false imprisonment, cruelty and corruption, but then a detail: that the way his henchmen had disposed of enemies was by hammering nails into their skulls. Horror, then. What mind does after horror, after that first feeling that you'll never catch your breath, mind imagines how not be annihilated by it. The preliminary tap, feels it in the tendons of the hand, feels the way you do with your nail when you're fixing something, making something, shelves, a bed. The first light tap to set the slant, and then the slightly harder tap to embed the tip a little more. No more. This should be happening in myth and stone or paint, not in reality, not here. It should be an emblem of itself, not itself. Something that would mean not really have to happen, something to go out, expand an implication from the unmoved mass of matter in the breast. As in the image of an anguished face, in grief for us. Not us as in a myth, a moral tale, A way to tell the truth that grief is limitless. A way to tell us we must always understand it's we who do such things. We who set the slant, embed the tip, lift the sledge, and drive the nail. Drive the nail, which is the axis upon which turns the brutal human world upon the world.
Thank you, Maeva. So our four finalists again: Brianna Gerlach, Janie Hanna, Victoria Maloney, Maeva Ordaz. Let's all give them a round of applause, please. Okay, so now while the judges deliberate, I'd like all the contestants to please come up, make a little semicircle up here. Are they going to recite first and then get their certificates? Okay. So we'll give those who haven't had an opportunity to do their third poem, if they'd like to do their third poem, or if they'd like to say something, to go ahead and do that. So up first would be Jillian.
In School Days by John Greenleaf Whittier. Still sits the schoolhouse by the road, a ragged beggar sleeping. Around it still the sumacs grow, and blackberry vines are creeping. Within, the master's desk is seen, deep scarred by raps official. The warping floor, the battered seats, the jackknife's carved initial. The charcoal frescoes on its wall, its doors worn sill betraying the feet that, creeping slow to school, went storming out to playing. Long years ago, a winter sun shone over it at setting, lit up its western window panes, and low eaves icy fretting. It touched the tangled golden curls and brown eyes full of grieving, of one who still her steps delayed, while all the school were leaving. For near her stood the little boy, her childish favor singled, his cap pulled low upon a face where pride and shame were mingled. Pushing with restless feet the snow, to right and left he lingered, as restlessly her tiny hands the blue checked apron fingered. He saw her lift her eyes, he felt the soft hands light caressing, he heard the tremble of her voice, as if a fault confessing. I'm sorry that I spelt the word, I hate to go above you, because the brown eyes lower fell, because, you see, I love you. Still memory to a gray-haired man, that sweet child face is showing. Dear girl, the grasses on her grave have 40 years been growing. He lives to learn in life's hard school how few who pass above him lament their triumph and his loss, like her, because they love him.
Bjornstad, representing Sandpoint School. So we'll jump to Madison Gilberto, representing Thunder Mountain High, please. Thank you, Madison.
The Paradox by Paul Laurence Dunbar. I am the mother of sorrows. I am the ender of grief. I'm the bud and the blossom. I am the late falling leaf. I am thy priest and thy poet. I am thy serf and thy king. I cure the tears of the heartsick. When I come near, they shall sing. White are my hands as the snowdrop. Swart are my fingers as clay. Dark is my frown as the midnight. Fair is my brow as the day. Battle and war are my minions, doing my will as divine. I am the calmer of passions. Peace is a nursling of mine. Speak to me gently, or curse me. Seek me or fly from my sight. I am thy fool in the morning. Thou art my slave in the night. Down to the grave will I take thee, out from the noise of the strife, and then shalt thou know me, death then, no longer but life. And then shalt thou sing at my coming, kiss me with passionate breath, clasp me and smile to have thought me ought save the foeman of death. Come to me, brother, when weary, when thy lonely heart swells. I'll guide thy footsteps and lead thee down where the dream woman dwells. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. We'll now go to August Kilcher of Homer High School. August.
Crossing the Bar by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Sunset and evening star, and one clear call for me. And may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea. But as such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound or foam. When that which draws from the boundless deep turns again home. Twilight and evening bell, and after that, the dark. May there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. For though from out our bound, for though from out our bounded, it's born, okay, hold up. For though from out our born and of time and place, for though the flood may bear me far, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar.
Thank you, August. Now we'll jump to Angela Nashaluk, representing Frank A. Degnan High School in Unit Please, Angela.
Cartoon Physics, Part 1, by Nick Flynn. Children under, say, 10 shouldn't know that the universe is ever expanding, inexorably pushing into the vacuum, galaxies swallowed by galaxies, whole solar systems collapsing, all of it acted out in silence. At 10, we are still learning the rules of cartoon animation, that if a man draws a door on a rock, only he can pass through it. Anyone else who tries will crash into the rock. 10-year-olds should stick with burning houses, car wrecks, ships going down, earthbound, tangible disasters, arenas where they can be heroes. You can run back into a burning house. Sinking ships have lifeboats. The trucks will come with their ladders. If you jump, you will be saved. A child places her hand on the roof of a school bus and drives across a city of sand. She knows the exact spot it will skid, at which point the bridge will give, who will swim to safety, and who will be pulled under by sharks. She will learn that if a man runs off the edge of a cliff, he will not fall until he notices his mistake.
Thank you, Angela. Juliana Smith, representing Colony High School in Palmer.
Oops, hold on. Instead of reciting my third poem, I would rather say something for Poetry Out Loud. First of all, I want to thank my friends and family who have been there to support me through this whole process, especially my mom, who has gone through hours of listening to me recite my poems and then glare at her angrily when she gives me criticism. Also, I would like to thank the ladies and gentlemen who put this together. It's amazing that even up here in Alaska, even the rural villages can participate in Poetry Out Loud at a national level. Thank you.
And Al Weber finishing us off here from Skagway School.
Weighing In by Rena P. Espaillat. What the scale tells you is how much the earth has missed you, body. How it wants you back again after you leave it to go forth into the light. Do you remember how the earth hardly noticed you then? Others would rock you in their arms, warm in the flow that fed you, coaxed you upright. Then the earth began to claim you with spots and fevers, began to lick at you with a bruised knee, a bloody shin, and finally, to stoke you, body, drumming intimate coded messages through music you danced to unawares. There, in your dreaming and your poems and your obedient blood, body, how useful you became, how lucky, heavy with news and breakage, rich and sad. Sometimes, imagining that greedy zero you must have been, that promising empty sack of possibilities, never to come tomorrow. But look at you now, body, soft old shoe that love wears when it is stirring. Look down. Look at how earth wants what you weigh, needs what you know.
Will our four finalists take one step forward, please, for me? And just to remind everyone, the winner will receive $200, an all-expense-paid trip with an adult chaperone to Washington to compete for the Nationals. The state's winner will receive their school will receive $500 for their poetry books, and the first runner-up in each state will receive $100, with $200 for her school library, with a total of $50,000 being awarded throughout the program. So it gives me great pleasure to announce the first runner-up in the competition is Victoria Maloney. Yay, Victoria, congratulations. And your new state champion of Poetry Out Loud, Maeva Ordaz, everybody. Would you like to say something, Maeva?
First of all, I'd like to thank my sister for listening to me countless hours without pay.
Oh, you're going to pay for it.
And for my mom for being so patient with me and, always pushing my sister to push me to recite. I'd also like to thank all the teachers at West High School, Temperance Tinker, David Vano, John Rulin, who helped make Poetry Out Loud possible at West High School. It has been an incredible experience for me for the past 2 years. It's helped me grow immensely as a speaker and as a reader of poetry. I would also like to thank the judges for taking the time to come here and to listen to us recite. And I'd like to thank Laura Forbes for being awesome and for helping us put this together. And I'd also like to thank all my fellow contestants. It's been great getting to know you guys. But yeah, thank you to everybody who's helped make Poetry Out Loud possible here in Alaska.
Couldn't be better said. Thank you, Maeva. A round of applause for all of them, please.
The Alaska State Poetry Out Loud competition is made possible by the Alaska State Council on the Arts in partnership with the Juneau Arts and Humanities Council, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Poetry Foundation.